Welcome back to the Heroes Global Championship as we are watching two great teams from EU duke it out right now. Zealots versus Tricked Esports. We're all tied up 1-1. Get ready for game number 3.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that you get your wish granted.
Do you have a feeling? Are you cheating?
Yeah, I'm cheating.
Let's cheater. Let's go to battleground number 3 here as we figure out which battleground our
What
teams
could
are
it
going
be?
to. It's going to be Volskaya Foundry as Tricked Esport. We'll go ahead and pick up the battleground for game number 3, meaning first pick will go over to the Zealots, and we're obviously going to get Yazo.
I'm actually surprised. I'm not even gonna, I'm not gonna even justify that comment. I'm surprised that Volskaya is being chosen. I did not expect them to go into it early on. I really thought if it's going to be played, it will be played as either the 4th or the 5th map. But they already are willing to show off the Protector here. So it's Tricked choosing the map again, which means that we had Zealots opt in for the first pick here. But yeah, first 2 games have been pretty awesome. Second game saw some incredible play from both teams with a very even draft. And now we're going to find out what happens on map 3. Also, Hanzo's going to make another appearance here.
Yeah, I want to see how the Protector is utilized. A lot of teams are using it as this stationary object that you drop in front of the towers, you switch in and out of the gunner, use your cooldowns, your abilities, jump back in. Let's see that Pro Micro being utilized on this battleground, as I want to see if the Protector is as good as, say, a Dragon Knight or even the Garden Tear. How these teams pull it off as we move into the battleground. First ban, going to Zealots.
And now, of course, also the question again, if the Zealots want to play with Hanzo again, as they now do 2 times in a row, are they going to commit to maybe a ban on Genji here a little bit earlier, or are they going to change their game up completely? So we have so far Zealots playing with Hanzo twice, 1 win, 1 loss. We were successful on Battlefield of Eternity and then lost on Infernal Shrines. We also had a trend on the side of Tricked where they banned Abathur on every single map so far, the 2 that they played. But it seems as if the Zealots are, again, showing a little bit more respect to Crosby himself with a hover ban on Gul'dan for now.
Another hover ban on the Gul'dan. For Tricked Esport, I wouldn't mind if they follow that trend of banning Abathur, especially on this battleground with it kind of leading towards the late game. Abathur excels when he's able to get to that mid game, obviously, get that ultimate evolution set up, so we'll see if they go that route. They decide to go ahead and ban Malthael, though. Zealots keeping Alex off of him.
Yeah, the way that Malthael influenced the team fights in the past was actually really interesting, again, because on Infernal Shrines he completely took the pressure off Genji and also fucking Genji this time picked over Hanzo. So yeah, last time when Malthael was the main focus, when he moved in with Torment Souls and forced the Zealots to really respect him and say, okay, we need to deal with this guy somehow, then Li Ming and Genji could do whatever they wanted. So in this case, it seems very likely that the Zealots are just saying, okay, we need to make sure that we don't have to deal with that same situation again. They also pick Genji now over Hanzo. Again, as we said before, that it's starting to make it a little bit less likely that Tricked is simply committing to Hanzo. If they do, they need to make sure that they have some protection for him.
Sure. Is there a good chance Zealots could, if Hanzo is left up, take both of them? Do they work on a composition together? Hanzo and Genji?
I haven't really paid too much attention to that, and I think could definitely work if you play properly.
Well, there's Tyrael.
But I think you could, I mean, it's always a question of what kind of weakness you can exploit. For example, if you then play around with focusing heavily on wave clear, on pushing, for example, you have a slight edge there as well. But in this case, the situation doesn't even occur since Hanzo, of course, is now picked by Tricked on the other side. Again, very high priority for them on Tyrael.
Tyrael seemed to be really enjoying what he brings. And when watching Grimmer and Game 2, it's worth it. He's been doing really well on that character, showing up in the fights, dropping in and out. He has support to back him up, and the Holy Grounds really allowed for them towards the late game to control space.
And they played Tyrael in every single game so far. So they played him on both maps. Again, that draft on the first game didn't really cater towards the objective. There was definitely a bit of a weakness when it came to the Immortal race and the 5 versus 5 into the Zealots. But they still feel that Tyrael is the way to go, and we see that reflected here once again. For now, that works, but we already see a couple of trends on the side of Tricked. For example, the 3rd map where they ban out Abathur, completely disregarding if their first pick or second pick, is also something that we need at some point to talk about. Because if that's something that continues into their second and third game or match that they play, at some point you can start abusing that quite heavily. So it's definitely something to keep an eye out on. And Tyrael is also now one hero scenarios, if he is such a key component for that drafting, that at some point you could think about maybe not banning him out, but picking him away from him.
And Li Ming picked for the 3rd game in a row. We had it for Trick in game number 2, and game number 1 we had it for the Zealots. So it looks like Li Ming might be back.
She was gone?
She was gone for a while, man. Picking Li Ming was one of the only mage options it felt like you had last year when Genji was on the field. That guy was way too powerful at shutting her down.
She was never really gone.
I felt like
a little bit.
Mages in general were just gone last season. I don't know. It's good to see it. That's what I'm
A little bit gone.
a little bit gone.
It's not.
She was one of the options that you can move into.
Yeah, which means that she wasn't gone.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough, man.
No, but yeah, the mage problem that we had at the end of last year for a long time, that was definitely a bit of an issue. But Li Ming is the reset double again. With Genji and Li Ming, we saw the combo also being played quite a lot at GCWC, for example. So it's still something you can play around. We have seen the same comp in the last game as well. And right now, with Arthas at the forefront, the Zealots are just simply trying to give Tricked Esports a taste of their own medicine here.
Greymane being hovered as a possible ban here. 2 squishy targets here. Genji doesn't have his protection up. He can be burned down by the Greymane. And Li Ming as well doesn't want to deal with a whoop on his face, especially when Tyrael is able to dive forward with the Sandification, so not a bad ban here. And of course, Cursed Bullet with Arthas floating around is always annoying. Greymane will be taken out here, as Zealots will not allow it to be on the field.
Yeah, as I said before, we are going to see Greymane with an involvement rate of nearly 100% this season. So it's very unlikely. We are not going to have a lot of games where he's not either picked or banned. He's just a fantastic hero that nearly fits every single composition, and teams are going to exploit that a lot. Especially with now, we are suddenly finding ourselves in a situation where you have a lot of squishies that you can target. You don't have to go for Cursed Bullet every single game and try and blow up the front line like we saw at the end of last year. But Go for the Throat is making huge plays against Hanzo, for example, happen, or against other squishies where you can just simply put more pressure on them and insta-kill them. So that's going to be super important for the teams and just adds to the flexibility that he currently holds. But for now, the setup that we have for the Zealots already very solid. We've been talking about Arthas and the high priority that he has in the tanks. Definitely one of the top 3 in Europe right now. The combo between Genji and Li Ming is nothing new. But for Tricked Esports, we have at this point Lucio against Genji. First one, important one. That could have been another big ban on the side of the Zealots on their second ban, banning out Lucio because they are running Genji here. But now we have the sound barrier against the Dragon Plate. So the dynamic between the two is something to watch out for. And then also with the shields of Tyrael, with Nuburak in there, there's already a lot of sustain on their part.
A lot of control too. Being able to drop a Cocoon when Genji goes in with the Dragon Blade is great. Even stopping Arthas from coming in so you're able to focus the targets that you want is always wonderful. So Tricked Esport, bringing in the control here between Tyrael and a Nuburak, with Lucio giving you the ability to boost on in. They can pick a target and delete it from the game.
Yeah, and Lucio also, of course, gives you the quick rotations between lanes, and on big maps that is even more important in majors than anywhere else. So question still remains if Zealots at some point are, for example, what they could do is just drop a second tank in there, drop something along the lines of ETC, and make sure that you have with Stage Dive a tool where you have a bit of side soak and can still join the team fights. That's one option. They decide in favor of Muradin over ETC here, so they have the double front line, but they don't go for Stage Dive, so they wouldn't have a global. They have still Genji for quick rotations between lanes and trying to catch experience if they're about to miss out on one, and Rega with Cleanse, and of course the Panic Button as the last pick.
Muradin versus ETC. ETC gives you the ability to get a little bit more minion control as you're able to have some decent wave clear. Muradin kind of really sucks at that. But what you do get with Muradin is you're able to jump onto a backline and choose a target and stay attached to them. Even with the armor reduction level 7 talent, at least Muradin can survive and elite Hanzo at bay. So I kind of like this pickup. Also, great for picks. Land a Star Bolt into a Li Ming combo. That target is usually picked out of a fight.
Yeah, so both of them can provide some lockdown potential, especially with Arthur's Howling Blast, ETC Power Slide into Howling Blast, Muradin, Stormbolt. So there's definitely a lot to play around with. A very beefy front line, no matter what you think here.
Quite robust, yeah.
Yeah, and Muradin also has a lot to say. And here comes Gul'dan. I really like it. It was, keep in mind, the ban that was hovered by the Zealots earlier. They decided in favor of Malthael instead, but Gul'dan was something that they've been thinking about for quite some time, and they banned him out on Infernal Shrines, our second map. So already saying a lot about how much they respect Crosby on the hero here, and now Tricked Esports picking Gul'dan up on the last spot as they get the opportunity. We're going to find out now if the ban would have been justified, if Zealots would have been better off banning out Gul'dan over Malthael, if Crosby can deliver at this point or not.
Incoming 5-man Horrify to win the game. Let's call it right here, right now. Let's go ahead and get ready for game number 3. What I like about the draft here for Tricked Esports is they have great protector control, first off in the zones that you have to hold down, but also burn. If they have the protector that is pushing into a fort between Gul'dan and Hanzo, they should make it pretty easy work if it's not piloted correctly by the opposing team. So they look good in that regard, and they have a lot of heroes that I feel like they are very comfortable on. I'm actually leaning towards Tricked on this draft.
I feel like it's, again, fairly even with what we have. The reset potential is there on the side of Zealots. To me, it comes down very heavily to Gul'dan and the way that he's played right now. Also, we have to once again watch out for Dragon Blade versus the Sound Barrier.
Sure.
If at any point with the lockdown that Zealots now hold, if they get a Stormbolt and a Howling Blast composition off and Liming gets a combo off and forces Lucio to drop the Sound Barrier to keep a target alive, then I feel Tricked is going to fall apart, because then Genji has all the time in the world to simply go for the Dragon Blade and just swipe through them. But if he can really hold the Sound Barrier up to the point where Genji is forced to make his move, then I think the execution on the side of Tricked should be strong enough that they can really deal with it. And the problem for Genji is also going to be that Horrify if he goes in a little bit too deep. Same for Liming, of course.
Well, let's see if they're able to pull that off as you get your first look at Volskaya Foundry here in the HGC Europe. As we move into game number 3, we're all tied up. Which team will take the lead between Tricked Esports and Zealots? It is time to find out.
The series is tied as we are heading into Volskaya Foundry. The Zealots going up against Tricked Esports. One again, shot on Rega. We're seeing ADRD this time on Liming. Mopsio on the main tank with Muradin. Zarmani on Arthurs, and Chris on Genji.
On the right side, in the red, Tricked Esports here, just coming off a nice fresh win. Crosby will be showing off the Hanzo. Make is actually going to be playing the Gul'dan. Rimmer will be on a Nubrak, Alex the Proji will be playing Tyrael, and Lucio, played by Grandpa Kid. What do you think about that? Crosby on Hanzo instead.
Yeah, switching it around, and we have a couple of other changes as well. Now, first of all, on the level 1, we have Frost Presence taken on Arthurs by Zarmani, so going full in on the roots. This time also not that auto attack focus that we've seen from ADRD on Hanzo. Instead, we are seeing target practice taken, so going into Stormbolt instead. And yeah, this is definitely going to be a bit of a different game here. And I am very curious to see also the impact of Hanzo now played by a different player with an adjusted build. So we've seen what the Zealots can do with him. They won a game, they lost the second, but what can Trick pull off, especially now with Crosby, of course.
Especially that Q build that you were talking about. Now, this Q build does mean that we'll need that Hanzo to land his Q on all 5 targets in the opposing team multiple times to get a nice little damage buff here. So we'll see if Crosby pull that off, and when he does, Tricked Esport doing all right in the rotation so far. Howling Blast already has a couple of stacks, and Rimmer has actually elected to move into the Region Globe quest, Regeneration Master. With the latest changes in Heroes of the Storm, where you're able to fight over Region Globes, any Region Globe talent actually gets a heavy amount of value. One that comes to name right now is actually a Mana Addict from Kel'Thas. If you're able to grab a ton of Region Globes, those shields are great. So consider that when picking up your talents.
Yeah, regeneration talents in general have seen interesting dynamics now with the changes. And overall, I have to say that the changes are actually really, really fun, especially after we now see forts and keeps being a little bit stronger. It's pretty cool. Average game time was very, very low. We've seen that in Hero League as well. Has dropped to oftentimes below 10 minutes. Right now, we are back to pretty standard times, back and forth games. And when we're talking about game time, this is of course also one of the maps, as you said before, that usually lasts a bit longer, where especially lineups that scale well into the late game have an edge.
Like Gul'dan, for instance, that's 13-16 online for him. So we'll keep an eye on that as we watch the quest at the level 1 picked up, and when that finishes off for a new Barak, we're already moving towards level 4 for our teams. And nothing too aggressive. The most that I've seen on the map here is Mercenary Cramps in the top right and the top left starting to be grabbed. Rhaegar started grabbing his, but back to help defend on the top side as Trick is grouping up his 4 to push in. Now, this Merc camp on Volskaya Foundry can be decent by itself, and it does outrange the turret, so if you can bolster it and help out with the push, usually you can get a nice experience lead. But Zealots, they defend well here with ADRD and Chris burning them down.
Yeah, the control point opening up in another 10, and the camps are again timed around the objective. which is the best thing that you can do on most maps, really timing it properly, and that's what we're seeing here. Grammar Baller, kind of low. Shat jumps in, delivers another huge blow against the Nuburak, but the bug is still alive, so right now he can still join that fight once the control point comes online. It is already contested here. Teams are already in possession of the level 4 talents, aiming for 7 there, but splitting out on the map. So right now, the idea of Trick that can already solve most teams is just keep someone in the mid lane, try to contest it a bit, but at the same time make sure you don't lose out on any experience.
The wave clear here is just phenomenal for them. Between Gul'dan, Explosive Arrow being picked up at 4 on Hanzo, they're able to deal with minions quite quickly, which should allow for them to burn the Punisher, as we were mentioning earlier in the draft. Gank attempt on the top side, not connecting. A little bit too hard to chase down the target, with Rhaegar, of course, having that movement speed in the middle, too. He's able to play nice and safe. As Xiao will soak on up, and there's a little bit of percentage back and forth between our teams. It's interesting how this is kind of get some points while you can. The priority seems quite low on the first shrine.
It's also the level 7 talent that's important. If you commit too early to the control point, then all of a sudden your opponent soaks 3 lanes, gets level 7, and can simply collapse onto you and take you down. But as you said, the priority of the first one isn't really too big either. You see at this point, Trick just simply moving away from it, saying, okay, we don't even need that. So right now, both of the teams on level 7, overall the Zealots even in a slight advantageous position when it comes to experience, and they have the first protector that they can now immediately control with Genji.
Now I'm watching the movement. How will they push with this? The Protector's on the bottom side. Only Genji in there. You see him jump between driving and, of course, turret mode here. Turret mode allows him to use, of course, the damage that is available as the second set of abilities on the Protector, not jumping 2 people into it right away. In the first phase, you're just looking to grab a couple of turrets, maybe a little bit of damage on your opponents, but you're not going to try to grab too much. In fact, one of the best things you could do is keep the Protector alive. Make your opponents respect that it's there while you do things on the other side of the map, like picking off a Gul'dan.
Yeah, that was a really cool kill here. Very nice lockdown. And it comes back to the combo between Muradin and Arthas, where they can just simply use their abilities to stack the CC on one target and then capitalize with damage. And that's exactly what we saw. Li Ming is always fantastic to land one of these combos, and in this case, Gul'dan just didn't stand a chance yet. The first kill of game number 3 goes over to Zealots, and they have by now also taken the lead in experience. It's a small one, but it's definitely something that helps them to grab level 10 first.
Yeah, level 10. Right around the corner for them. Tricked wanted to answer back, but not able to find a pick in the middle. And the conveyor belts will be something that will be utilized in the second phase here. Not really too big of a deal until the third phase. On the bottom control point is where you're going to have a lot of fighting around the area, which can be a little bit on the awkward side. And I recommend, hang on here, as Li Ming gets picked up on the top left side. Boom, another pick off. Tricked Esports finding their own kill, 1-to-1 for both of our teams. I highly recommend grabbing the turrets on the bottom left and the bottom right mercenary camp on the second and third phase. Throw those down. It helps you control a point, and their damage output is actually wonderful. I think the moment that I realized that the turrets are a little bit stronger than I anticipated is when I was a Gazlo with 3 turrets down, and that lone turret
The argument is already over.
destroyed my Gazlo.
When you started, when I on Gazlo, that was already when your point became mute.
I was just trying to give you, a point of measurement. Gazlo's turrets, 3 of them don't beat 1 of those turrets. That's how strong they are.
This already is something else is strong here too, and it is hurting Zarmany, and that's mainly, of course, here the combo between Hanzo and also Gul'dan here. But what you talk about the entire
Conveyor belt?
thank you.
Got you.
Not quite sure where that went. That's actually something where I'm really curious to see how that's going to come into play in competitive, because of course we all experienced that in Hero League, but right now I'm curious to see if at some point we're going to have some wild dynamics happening in team fights where that is going to become the linchpin of a certain move. So that would be pretty cool to observe. Right now I'm not quite sure if that's going to happen, if I'm sold on this, but yeah, the games will definitely tell.
At first thought, on the third phase, I feel like the team that's able to control the middle first is most likely going to control that point the best, because actually invading into the middle of the area with the conveyor belt spinning on both sides is quite difficult. It puts you in a situation where you are just being thrown around the map while that Gul'dan is dropping corruption on you, right? So I want to see how that's going to pull off too. I completely agree with you. It would be great, and we'll get to see it soon here, to watch our pros figure out the best way to invade or, of course, not invade that area.
Just with a high mobility hero in general, when you have, let's say, a Zeratul, for example, in play, and then you also intentionally use the conveyor belt, you know, to your advantage somehow.
Yeah.
If someone pulls that off, that would be just fantastic to observe. So I'm really waiting for it to happen. Mobsio here is also in a bit of a pickle at this point, dropping Avatar as well, getting stunned out once more. Here comes everything. Rega Ancestral trying to take him down immediately when the sound barrier used, and Li Ming falls as well. Tricked Esport just flipping the switch and going ham on the Zealots.
Happy play there.
2 down.
Rimmer coming in and stopping the Murden jump midway through. Forced that fight there, and Zealots tried to save the situation. Possibly better to let Murden die because they lose 2 members, but he popped his Avatar. And they also burned Ancestral Healing just to keep him alive. Big pickup there from Tricked Esports, and all of that comes down to Rimmer getting that perfect engage.
Zealots and Tricked are 2 of the teams that were really a big question mark before me and before we headed into the season. And right now, when we're looking at it, the Zealots are looking quite strong. There's definitely synergy for them. Tricked has improved, I would say, towards last season as well. It's of course a bit early to tell since we are only in the 3rd game of the 2 teams. But I'm really liking what I'm seeing here. So a strong start from both, and a very heavily fought over 3rd map. Tricked Esport gets a pretty big advantage over the control point here, number 2 all the way up at the top. Problematic for the Zealots is that there's still Tyrael at the bot lane that gets a huge amount of experience for Tricked and nearly gives them an entire level lead right now.
And I'm glad you pointed that out too, because look how Tricked Esport handled the situation. Zealots brought all 5 to the top to take over the control point. They didn't stress out at all. They let them have it and instead rotated to the middle here to get some experience themselves to go ahead and allow that aerial moment on the bottom to get them a further lead. And then when they're ready, when Zealots get, I don't know, 30 to 50% and start to actually contest that area, they'll bring everyone back to actually fight on that point. You can give up a little bit of control on this area. It's okay. You don't have to fight in a 4v5.
They got a massive amount of experience with this. They're a little ahead. There's several waves that were lost to Zealots because of it. And now Tricked is fighting again for the point, and they are already at 80, 90%. They're having an easy time there, especially with the turret that they dropped. They just simply take the next protector. They're already ahead, and let's see how much they can get out of it. Tyrael is currently using it all alone. The rest of the team is still angling for a bit of pressure here in the middle. And of course, they have also the healing item.
2 plays available here for Tricked Esport. Either open up the map in the middle by moving in with the fort with his Punisher, or they can split push and have the protector head to the top while they put 4 in the middle and break it down. They have elected to go ahead and bring all 5 to the middle of the map here and work on taking this fort down. They drop down the W from the protector, and as soon as they kill this fort, they move closer to 16.
Also keep in mind, this is Tricked's map choice. So Zealots opted after the loss on map number 2 to get first pick in the game, but Tricked, we want to play Volskaya. So they're the team that had the most confidence heading in and saying we want to play the new map. And we feel confident that we can showcase how strong we are here. Nice sound barrier saving Crosby. Here comes from Macke immediately. The ult with a Horrify, not really getting a kill out of it just yet, but they're going for Mobsio, and they confirm the kill against Muradin. Chris was in the cocoon at the same time. Well played by Tricked, still under control. The protector here, Tyrael, not being able to use his Sanct during the fight, but he didn't have to. 16, any second, there we go.
Grabakit, by the way, played that wonderfully. He dropped out the sound barrier, keep his teammate alive, and didn't burn down the healing item. He knew that Hanzo was safe, staying on the backside, poking from afar, and didn't really force anything to pop out. And then, once they won the fight, dropped the healing item, got everyone healed up, and they're going in for another chase. Lucio coming in big there for Tricked Esport. Love what Zealots did there, tried to force a fight, but the play here from the support kept Tricked Esport in it, and they moved towards 16.
Yeah, taking the doggy down and making sure that Rega falls, and he's not the only one. Zarmany is isolated at the bottom of the map and gets also blown to pieces. So now we have another double kill against the Zealots. Tricked is just absolutely running with a talent advantage that they have at this point. Very aggressive stance. And we've said it before, the Zealots, they need kills in these fights to get the resets on AD, Ardia, and Chris with Li Ming and Genji. And so far, they're just not hitting them. Instead, they are the ones that are just getting hunted. Mobsio barely jumps out. Now that Cocoon is being used. Is the stun follow-up there? Not enough to pressure AD, Ardia.
Crosby a bit off on that initial era to help bring the damage. Don't think it would have been enough to actually get the kill. Tricked Esports come back, take the fort on the bottom side, and they have opened up this battleground. as Zealots only have the 3 keeps, and they're able to grab every single mercenary camp on the field whenever they would like. And they immediately take away the turrets away from the Zealots, which having 2 of these for the next phase, wonderful. Actually, they'll have 3. They have 1 from earlier, too. They'll have 3 turrets for the bottom phase.
Yeah, they are looking absolutely fantastic here. 2-level lead alone is already fantastic, and now they are just simply moving in, going... They just take every single mercenary camp on the map right now. And they can't, because the Zealots can't really contest it without having the level 16 talent. 16 is such a power spike too. Mauricio alone with his 16 has just such a huge impact here. By now also, Hanzo, by the way, he just continued what we talked about earlier, going straight into the Stormbow Talons. We don't see him yet with a completed level 1 quest, so target practice has not been completed. The explosive arrows and 13 then, fleet of foot immediately taken here. And he is definitely bringing the pain as well. Crosby currently with his Hanzo sitting at 40,000 damage, hero damage output. Next highest is Genji with 22. So massive, massive lead here from Crosby Sansa.
Rimmer was getting caught there, was able to get away. Zealots went in for a fight. Zero had to be used to keep him alive. May have been able to hold that, but they were playing nice and safe. Look at the items that Tricked Esport has. They have a total of 3 turrets. They also have the healing item as well from the middle mercenary camp to the north. And they're getting top lane pushing. Tricked Esport, if I look at this game and I pause it right now, I feel like they have the bottom shrine on lock.
Yeah. I also want to highlight that Hanzo in this case, it's the same dynamic if you so want, because we are once again seeing Hanzo going up against Genji. And right now, Chris just isn't able to put as much pressure onto Hanzo as we've seen Trick push onto ADRD in the last game. And that comes back to Chris in general being a bit more, not quite as aggressive as other players on the heroes that he plays, but also he can't go in as deep simply because there's always Gul'dan with his ult. And there it is, Horrify being used, and Arthas goes down, doesn't even have a chance to pop his ult.
Hoping to make it work out for the team, but it does not. Mopsio as well left behind as he gets picked off. 2 members down for the Zealots. Tricked Esports hits a level 19, and they continue to push on the top side. They don't even care about the objective right now, and why would they? There's no one here on the top side that can really defend them as they push into the keep wall, and maybe even look at the keep here with the minion wave pushing in.
Yeah, and they are destroying that wave that comes out immediately, so now they can circuit themselves. They drop one of the turrets and they immediately go for it. That is definitely a keep loss, and just look at experience. They're closing in on 20. And again, the entire setup that Tricked is playing is just so great for them. Every single time we're seeing the Zealots going deep to maybe put the pressure onto the backline, Hanzo or Gul'dan, there's always a Horrify available, and then they jump on the target and blow it down. Arthas died within seconds in that last engagement, and then Muradin just didn't have a chance of escaping. And we all know how difficult it is to try and run away from Lucio once that your team is on the back foot, and that's what's happening the entire time here. Now, 3-level lead, Storm Talons as well. Tricked, it's definitely their game to lose. They are looking fantastic at this point.
Zealots are poking here, but they don't intend to fight. 17 to 20. Probably have to give up this Protector, but they should be able to soak some experience. They won't even get close to level 20 before Tricked Esport does finish this off. They're in a commanding lead. Zealots, they're shucking around here. Are they going to try and do a weird fight?
It's rough for them. I mean, when are you going to fight? If you give up the Protector now, you're definitely going to lose a keep, and you might lose more than that. So
sure.
They either have to fight now when there is no Protector, or they just say, hey, well, scratch that, because Zarmany getting hit by Hanzo and stunned out, and then all the damage from Gul'dan coming through. That was probably the last blow against them. Here comes the Horrify against Muradin. Mopsio does everything he can, pops the Avatar, but Li Ming is already down. The damage is gone. Chris is trying to escape here, using the Dragon Blade to move away, and in the meantime, Mopsio is still on the run. He doesn't make it. Down goes Muradin, and with a Trick picking up kill number 11 against 1. They just look stellar here. They move in, don't even go for the objective. They're just simply saying, boys, that's another keep in our favor right here. And again, we can still move back and get the objective if we want to.
Well, that fight was easy for Tricked Esport because of the 20 to 17. I also got to love and commend Rimmer and Crosby working together. Holy Grounds dropped. Crosby able to walk in the Holy Ground. Sanctification dropped for him as well, so he was able to kite around and bring out the damage. It was almost like a ballet there between the two working together. If you get a chance, rewatch that fight, because watching Hanzo move between where Tyrael sets him up for success was a delight to watch.
Yeah, they have great synergy right now. It showed in the last game, and it shows here as well. They are entire timings are incredibly on point. And that's pretty impressive. If they can keep that up throughout the entire Phase 1 and also against other teams, then they are definitely one of the teams that is going to put on a clinic.
Well, we'll see if this clinic ends here. Game number 3, Protector pushing. 21-18, almost 19 here for Zealots, but Tricked Esport making a play to end this game soon. They are bringing the Protector to the middle lane to work on the keep. It does have a harder time against the core. You can't disable the core, but being able to turn off a keep is always great for a push. So let's watch and see how they pull this off here, if Zealots can even defend.
Yeah, Mopsio already dropping hit points, and he's dropping it fast. Here comes the stun once again. Horrify being used too, but this time Murden survives a bit longer. Rega is out, does have the Ancestral, uses it right away. Mopsio keeps himself alive, but ADRD in the back is already low, and Arthas is down. It's just Trick getting kill after kill, moving in aggressively to take the last remaining keep down here. Mopsio and his boys are trying to prevent the worst, but Tricked Esports is out for blood.
Fully ground on the left to lock Mopsio in. Chris will go forward and put some damage in, but immediately has to flee there as Hanzo is just chasing him down there. Brother versus brother, and today Hanzo looks more buff as he ate his Cheerios. The rest of the team continue to push on in with 3 keeps down. Tricked Esports is looking at a core.
Yeah, they're going for it here. Every single keep is already destroyed. This is just a matter of time. Mopsio is low. He might fall. Finally completes his quest 19 minutes in, maybe a bit late. Leaving is dead, and that should be it. Material dropping the Sanct as well, as we see Tricked Esport taking game number 3 and taking the lead in the best of 5 series against the Zealots.
Tricked Esport up 2-1 over the Zealots right now, showing how Valkyria Foundry is played. And first look, looks like methodical. Nice and slow, small advantages here and there, pile them up to the point where you can eventually just take out your opponent as you get such a nice lead. Also, controlling the items. Felt a big deal there, our teams.
Yeah, team compositions as well. We've seen, again, Li Ming together with Genji, and this time it didn't have the same impact as it had for Tricked Esports on Infernal Shrines. And I think one of the main reasons was really the Malthael factor that we talked about in the previous game, because Malthael jumping in drew all the attention of Zealots and forced them to react. So that allowed Li Ming a lot of freedom to really move for a good position, get an angle for a kill, and then get those resets. At the same time, when we were looking at the last game on Volskaya, it was a completely different scenario for ADRD on Chris, on Li Ming and Genji for the Zealots, because they were trying to see when can we move in to pressure Hanzo to get a kill against Gul'dan, and every single time they tried to move in deep, there was always Gul'dan with a Horrify. There were a lot of stuns available. There was a Sanctification. Hanzo came out with his ult as well, locked them down, and then everybody just got blown to pieces. So it was incredibly difficult in comparison for them to move in and get these kills. And without resets, that composition just doesn't have the same threat level.
Just falls flat completely, as we saw there in game number 3. Let's go ahead and take a look at our rosters, because they've been